You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Good. Happy Friday. Good day to you all. Happy Friday. Welcome to the new. I'm your host, Randy Perham. Hope you all had a fantastic week. Uh, got a lot to cover today, so I'm pretty much just jump right into it. But before I do, I want to say congratulations to my grandson. The other day, he was hanging out over here and so laid him down on the couch, and he decided he wanted to roll over. He was like, "Oh, wow, okay." He's only 2 months old, so he's moving pretty fast, developing really well and everything. And we thought that was pretty cool. And he's already trying to crawl. He's scooting a little bit and everything. It's like, man, this kid is moving. He's growing quick. But anyways, happy Red Friday. Also, remember everyone deployed. We want to thank and send our appreciation to the men and women that are serving our country. We salute you every Friday to thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and your commitment to serving our great nation and protecting our freedoms around the world and wherever you may be um, at this present time. So, without further ado, the vice presidential debates that happened on Wednesday night. Sorry, days are running together. Being retired, lose track of days, track of hours, and everything else, and just yeah, it's great. But anyways, the vice presidential debates that was quite interesting, to say the least. I enjoyed it, and it was good stuff. But I will also acknowledge that um, Vice President Pence stumped Senator Harris. And I got it. We Everybody's gonna have their partisan views. Everybody's gonna say, well, she won because of this or he won because of that, depending on who your favorites are. But in terms of actual delivery of content and substance on matters, I will unequivocally say that Mike Pence actually got Senator Harris, Kamala Harris, on those issues. And I wrote down some points from the debate the other night when it happened because I got engaged into a post debate conference call with some friends, and we discussed these issues. It usually runs over about 2 hours, but it's great stuff. But on the issue of COVID, particularly, the moderator Susan Page, she mentioned uh, that the virus was airborne. Now, there's really been no scientific or medical evidence that the virus itself is airborne, and she alluded to the administration not having things under control, and she pointed out the 210,000 deaths. and to mention and not and also mention the super spreader event, which would be she was referencing to the Amy Coney Barrett, Judge Amy Coney Barrett's nomination here gala that they had at the White House there, and that from there, that's how people started getting the virus. Now, on a couple of points of that, like I said, there's no scientific or medical evidence that the virus is airborne. Yes, in confined spaces, indoor spaces, it could float around if you're not socially distancing and all that. We acknowledge and we got that. However, to make the accusation that the administration hasn't done anything behind it and to try to placate 210,000 deaths onto the president is kind of disingenuous, and so I will pose the question to the American people: when people are born in hospitals, do we blame the parents or do we blame the hospital staff for people being born? When people die every day from diseases, whether it's cancer, gunshot wounds, whatever the case may be, do you blame your mayor? Do you blame the governor? No, you don't. We look at the situations for what they are and we blame accordingly. We don't just abstract blame one person for the mass deaths of people that have different issues going on around the world. We no one's done that. We don't do that. It makes no sense. So I will suggest and offer to the people to stop saying that because it's nonsense. So, um, but moving on, to the vaccines. They discussed the vaccines coming out possibly, by the end of the year, around the election time, and they asked the question to she asked the question to Senator Harris on whether or not she would take the vaccine. She said, if Trump suggests that we take the vaccine, no, I am not taking it. If the medical doctors say it's safe and there's evidence that it's safe, then yes, I would take it. I'll be the first one to take it. Now, going back to once again, I said this a few weeks ago. I don't think it really matters what a person says if it's in the best interest of the individual affected. That if there's a vaccine and I'm comfortable with taking the vaccine, if I'm not an anti-vaxxer, I'm gonna take the vaccine. I don't care if the president, I don't care if the Pope, whoever. Speaking of the Pope, last week's show, but I don't care who says it. If it's something that I feel is like, okay, this is something that I should do or I should take, then I'm gonna do it. I don't care who's advocating for it, who's against it, or who's promoting it, and what have you. So, once again, being disingenuous, I thought that was kind of, like, why would you even say that? You could just simply say, I'm in support of a vaccine, provided that it is safe to take, and there's medical science or medical and science evidence saying that it's safe. Then yes, I would take it, and just and leave it at that. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. I don't see her on a plane to Russia taking their vaccine. But anyways, so then the next point, the ages and the health of both President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. President Trump is going on 74 years old, and uh, former Vice President Biden is going on 78. They will both be on coming inauguration day the oldest president to be sworn into office. Now, given given that magnitude, I really don't see a big deal because look at our senators and our congressmen. Most of them are like in their 70s and 80s. I really don't. Yeah, I don't really see what the problem is. If they're and I'm sure they both are. They have health issues. I'm pretty sure. Is it important for the American people to know what these health issues are? Sure, but there's also this thing called HIPAA. It's not really to the business of the American people to know the intimate finite details of a person's medical history or their current medical status. If the doctors say they're good, they can serve, whatever, leave it be. If they say, hey, you might want to, the clock is ticking a little bit here, so y'all might want to make some plans. Okay, then we can make that assessment from there. We don't need to know. Oh, well, he has high blood pressure and his last blood count was at 66. And, man, we don't need it. Who cares? Like seriously, I don't think anybody actually cares. They make it a point, a talking point, to pretend like they care. But at the end of the day, if you hand me somebody's medical file, especially the president's medical file, am I going to sit here and open it and read it? Hell no. I'm just not. That was another point that was brought up. It was about the tax returns, repealing the president's cuts and everything else. You hand me his tax returns, am I going to sit down and read it? No, I'm not. I got better things to do. I'd rather play Assassin's Creed. I ain't touched that in months. So no, and I'm sure the rest of America would not either. There might be one or two nerds out there that would do it. Okay, sure, but 9 times out of 10, you probably don't even know what you're reading. Because let's be real and let's be honest, America. Most of us don't do our own taxes, let alone be concerned with somebody else's taxes, unless you are a CPA or you're an accountant or you work for the IRS and this is what you do on a daily basis. But the average American citizen, you either take your stuff to H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, or you got some high-speed online program where you're doing the taxes are done for you. You just punch in the numbers based on your W-2, W-4, 1099, and whatever else. You're not really getting intimate into the details of taxes, let alone business taxes. Come on, let's stop playing. Anyways, so the couple other points. The $4 trillion New Deal, Green New Deal, that was by itself a very contentious point because Senator Harris talked about how her and Joe Biden do not plan on um, banning fracking, which on the website that Vice President Pence pointed to is like y'all said y'all was going to ban fracking, y'all mirror copied the Green New Deal into your plans. You're talking about retrofitting homes, businesses, and everything else to be more energy efficient and everything else. And she failed to identify. Well, I take it back. She didn't fail to identify. She failed to actually um, explain how they're going to pay for this. Outside of raising taxes on people that are making $400,000 or more, but you're repealing the tax cuts that Trump has implemented, thus affecting the rest of America as well, as Vice President Pence pointed out. If you do that, those that are paying $400,000 or more, they're either going to leave the country or invest their money into other things and not or have them under tax shelters. Let me put it like that. And now you're stuck. And we got to think about this. When we talk about the one percenters, America, listen to me here when I say this. I'm not much of a numbers guy, but I do have a bachelor's in business administration, and so every now and then I do play with numbers. But the you talk about the 1%, you're looking at literally out of 330 million Americans, and you say the top 1%, that's 330,000 people. Okay, out of that 330,000 people, you're expecting to tax them at whatever percent, unless you're taxing them at 100% and they just get nothing, no take home pay whatsoever. And they just have to live off of their savings that they have or whatever, or sell their assets to, keep their head above water. You're talking about taxing them at an exponential rate to support the rest of the 99% of the population, the other 270 million. We get the math here. It makes no sense. You're talking crazy. And that top 1% are the very ones that are funding your campaigns, and they're spending the money on these on the economy. They're the ones that's pushing the economy. You're talking about taking that money and putting it back into the economy, in which they're already contributing to. It's a crazy concept to sit back and you peel back the onion on this, And then you turn around and you say, we're going to get back into the Paris Climate Accord. Folks, we saw the disaster with the Paris Climate Accord. That was one of the main things that President Trump talked about getting us out of when he ran in 2016. That was like the first thing he did was pull America out of the Paris Climate Accord. And then on top of that, we're doing more energy efficient things than those that are within the Paris Climate Accord are doing right now. So why is it that we were paying $1 billion a year to Europe, to this group, to stave off, and help climate change when nothing was being done? We're still having issues. They're still having issues, anyways. And Vice President Pence done a phenomenal job pointing that out. Then the trade war with China, the recreation of what was formerly known as NAFTA, now known as the USMCA agreement. Yes, some jobs got some industries were hurt in the process. That is why it's called war. Some people will get hurt in the process. But for the large part, we saw an economic shift and an economic boom, and a lot of those jobs came back. A lot of them were restored. Some of them were new jobs. So, like I said, it was going back, looking at the substance of what was delivered by both Vice President Pence and Senator Harris. He was nailing it. Showing historical trends that you and I can go back and look at the record, look at the information, and look at the charts and everything else, and see he was correct. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not riding Pence, but I will say there were a couple of questions that were not directly answered and dodged on both sides. But to me, I think his deflection on a couple of the questions were kind of immaterial questions, anyways. And he utilized this time, and this is the mark of a great debater. He utilized his time to not only say, I'm not going to answer that question because I'm not going to say a dumb question, but it's a immaterial question. Let me utilize this time to actually get my points across from a previous question or a previous point I was making. And then I'll address to some degree the present question. That was ingenious. But that was like, I was like, bravo, bravo. That is the mark of a great debater, like I said, folks. So the relationship with China. Kamala Harris, Senator Harris said something that I found to be starkly pausing when she said that we have to build a relationship. Foreign policy is like relationships and everything else, and we have to aim to be friends with China and everything. And we all know that China actively is aggressive, is an adversarial enemy to the United States. Yeah, we got trade and stuff like that. I got all that, but all in all, no. so when she said that, I was like, and even Mike Pence was like, so. But hey, I digress. Uh, Roe v. Wade and abortions, uh, and going into the pre-existing conditions and all that stuff on healthcare. I would say for both of them. Now, folks, if you have not, let me pause there. If you have not went and read both President Trump's under the Platinum Plan, anyways, and former Vice President Joe Biden's medical or healthcare packages, what they're talking, I encourage you to do so. Don't take my word for it. I did a deep dive kind of into it last week, and I will touch on it just a little bit here. But on the aspect of Roe v. Wade overturning abortions and all this good stuff, I had this discussion with the panel during our post debate on Wednesday night, and I asked a simple question: when in history has the Supreme Court, under a new session, under an old session, whatever the case may be, the appointment of a new judge, they said, "Oh, let's go back to this one case and overturn everything"? When has that happened? Never. So, folks, stop letting the media fear stoke you, fear monger you, into thinking that the appointment or the confirmation of Judge Barrett is going to result in them just coming together and say, hey, oh, let's overturn this. It's done. Stop. It's not going to happen. And even if it did happen, folks, it still takes, that's at the federal, that's across the nation. But however, it still takes local and state to act on it and say, yes, we're going to enforce this law, or no, you're not going to get an abortion, or yes, you can still get an abortion because, under these medical conditions and blah, 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 blah. Now, I posed a question, something for you to think about. What type of abortion are we talking? Many people on the panel alluded to rape. Okay, yes, I would support an abortion for rape. Yes, medical reasons, life or death. Yes, I got it. There's no point in bringing a child into the world when the mother's gonna die delivering birth. Especially if the baby is the one that's gonna cause her to die. Common sense application there, folks. But when we talk about recreational abortion, now I caught a little flack for saying that. What's recreational abortion, Randy? What are you talking about? Recreational abortion. You're utilizing abortion as a form of contraception. Now, that I do not support. If you're going to be irresponsible, or you realize that you were irresponsible, or you come to the realization after the fact that, you know what, I don't want a baby with this jackass, I'm going to get rid of it. That's recreational abortion. Your life is not in jeopardy. You are not raped. Period. What if I pay for my own abortion? Charlie Mike, if you're paying for it yourself. But don't sit here and tell me that you have a right to do something at the conscription of my money, my taxpayer dollars. I have a say so too. We could get into that argument all day long. It's my body, it's my right. Yeah, I concur. It's my money. And if I want to make my voice heard in a form of legislation that I do not support that mechanism, then that's what it is. And it passes, then that's what it is. It's still your body. It's still your right, to a degree. But I'm not going to get into the religious aspect of that. But if you wanted to do that, and you say, I got $350 or whatever it costs, and I'm gonna pay for it myself and take care of this myself, by all means. That's just what it is. So, um, the next point was brought up. I'm not gonna let this go by. Like I said, I wrote down a ton of stuff here. Senator Harris pointed out, she gave a history lesson that Abraham Lincoln said that he would not appoint a justice at the time when Justice Roger B. Taney died. That he was not going to appoint a justice in the election year, and he wanted the American people to decide. Craziness. Now, folks, hold on. Here's this great, phenomenal book I highly recommend. It's a long read. It is. But Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. Team of Rivals actually highlights. Sorry about that. It highlights and captures pretty much everything that happened under Lincoln's administration. Like even little finite details, letters he wrote to people, all kinds of stuff. And it discusses in the book about the appointment of the Supreme Court at the beginning of the Civil War, 1864, as they were, discussing how that would went. And one of his rivals, that's why it's called Team of Rivals, Samuel P. Chase, he appointed to the Supreme Court. But he held back that. I'm not going to get into the history of it. I want you to look it up. But he did not do what Kamala Harris said he did. So anyway, I thought that was like a funny tidbit to touch on, because I was like, wow, he did? Huh, okay, if you say so. But the other thing, then it's going to be my last point here on the debates, the Breonna Taylor situation. Now, folks, I'm still seeing a lot of stuff on Breonna Taylor. Matter of fact, I was just tagged in something a little while ago about it, on how they're still looking for justice. They want justice, folks. I mean, come on, like the family got a settlement for $12 million. Mom went out and bought a Bentley, got a mansion. Uh, One of the officers were indicted for uh, reckless shooting into a house because some of his rounds went into other apartments. And we all know that Breonna Taylor was not sleeping in her bed like the narrative came out it was. She was not exactly as innocent as she was portrayed. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many variables that we have to mash together and say, what justice are you looking for? Do you want all of the officers indicted and whatever else? You want them all to go to jail? Okay, you got a settlement. I mean, you kind of it just I don't know. It's a little weird to me that there's all these demands being met. You had a grand jury, then they want the grand jury transcripts released. They released it. They still not happy. Folks, I think we're at the point of you're not going to be happy no matter what is done. Even if the cops got arrested and they got convicted, you're still not going to be happy because at this point we're looking for things to not to be happy about. And that's just my take on it. That's just from what I've been seeing. So, well, I thought the debates were really good. The fly on the head on Mike Pence there was really funny, hilarious. But hey, it is what it is. Folks, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Keep it locked right here. And we will see you in a couple of minutes.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Hey, welcome back. So, most of you are probably thinking, well, we got another presidential debate coming up next week. What can we expect from that? I I will say stay tuned. Because currently President Trump said that he is not going to debate if they're trying to do it virtually. Now, I don't blame him, to be honest. If we saw how the vice presidential debates went down. They had double plexiglass, didn't shake hands, they were socially distanced, and all that good stuff. If the doctors are saying, and we're following science like everybody suggests that we do, if the doctors are saying that President Trump is cleared, he can go out and do events and all that good stuff by Saturday. The debates is next week, in the middle of next week, towards the end of the week actually. Then and he's not displaying symptoms. He's not being a carrier per se, a spreader and whatnot. And we still implement these protocols. Say protocol. Hell, I say put up booths and make as soon as they come out to the stage, they walk right into a booth and you close the door and they're locked in that booth and they get to do the debate that way. That's what I say. But hey, I'm not running it. But the Presidential Debate Commission, they arbitrarily changed the format, sparking anger in President Trump and a surprise to former Vice President Joe Biden's camp that they was going to do this virtually. Now, I think it would be a disservice to the American people if we did see a debate that was virtual like that. Only way I see that actually playing out okay, maybe, is they did a kind of like a Zoom type setup, maybe, because it's kind of like real time and it's kind of like spur of the moment, if you will. But you still leave room for teleprompters and coaching, big ass cue cards in the back. It can subsequently get to that. So I think them actually being on the stage in front of a semi audience and doing this will probably be the better opportunity. Now Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, Madam Speaker, Pelosi is doing what she said back on what was that, the 30th of August, September, somewhere around there, a few weeks back. She said we will use every arrow in our quiver to stop President Trump. Her invocation of looking at invoking, I should say, the 25th Amendment for health concerns surrounding President Trump, but then she kind of backpedals in her explanation saying, well, not just for him, but for future presidents, for future people. And, folks, 25th Amendment is very clear. You don't need to establish a panel, a commission for all of this. And I will highly, highly recommend that you pick up a copy. I'm just promoting books all day long today. I would highly recommend that you pick up a copy of the Constitution. Read it for yourself. You can Google it, 25th Amendment. And it clearly states, Section 1, in case of the removal of the president from office or of his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Cut and dry, plain and simple. Section 2. Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation by majority vote of both House and Congress. That's in the event the vice president dies or something happens to the vice president. Section 3. Whenever the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmit to them in writing declaration of the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the vice president as acting president. Now I'm gonna pause right there for a second, ladies and gentlemen, because back in 2002 and 2007, if my memory serves me correctly, that happened. President George W. Bush transferred his power as president to Vice President Cheney, Dick Cheney, while he underwent a series of surgeries. And once he was good, he felt like he was okay again and to be president again. He said, "All right, Dick, get my shit back. Give me my presidency back. Thanks, I appreciate you looking out, dog." And life was good. Now, this is why you need to learn history, folks. I ain't not you personally. I'm just saying, just learn history. These things, everything that we see and are going through has been done at some point in time in life. Anyways, Section 4. This is what Speaker Pelosi is talking about. Under Section 4, whenever the Vice President and the majority of either the principal officers, the cabinet, of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting President. I'm gonna stop right there. There's a lot more to that, but we get the gist, folks. What she is trying to do is usurp the presidency by invoking the 25th Amendment through a commission that she presented as a bill to say that, hey, we're going to get a team of folks and we're going to monitor the actions and the movements of the president, whether it's Trump or not, like she says, and we're going to determine whether or not they're fit to serve in office. Yeah, no, that would be a requirement of 2/3 vote in both the House, the Senate to pass, number one. And number two, if the president is incapacitated to any degree, the vice president becomes the president. It's already laid out. So to try to usurp the Constitution and to usurp the powers of the president by saying we're going to establish a commission to monitor the president, no. You have the House Oversight Committee, you have a Senate Oversight Committee for such things as well. So, what are we doing here, Speaker, Madam Speaker? What are we doing here? Stop the madness. It's craziness. Sure craziness. Folks, we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
If you're looking to have blacksmithing work done, check out veteran-owned and operated Old Emerald Coast Forge, located in Louisiana. Old Emerald Coast Forge offers you the best in blacksmithing work, from personal knives, swords, furniture, jewelry, you name it. If you're looking to have blacksmithing work done, no task is too tough for these guys. Check out Old Emerald Coast Forge. You can find them on Facebook at Old Emerald Coast Forge. You can also find them on Instagram at Old Emerald Coast Forge. Veteran owned and operated out of Louisiana.
Alexa, help me find the best in urban conservative news, talk, and movies. Okay, Alexa, we found it.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome back. So, Malcom X, prolific speaker, orator, teacher, all that good stuff, right? He gave a speech. I want to say it was in the year 65, 1965. He gave a speech on politics. In particular, it was about white liberals, white conservatives, and blacks in the middle being the political football. In sum, I'm going to play this speech for you, and we're going to have a quick discussion about it. So, let me get it pulled up here. And you don't need to look at me because I'm ugly. Be right back.
In this crooked game of power politics here in America, the Negro, namely the race problem, integration, civil rights issue, are all nothing but tools used by the whites who call themselves liberals against another group of whites who call themselves conservatives, either to get into power or to retain power. Among whites here in America, the political teams are no longer divided into Democrats and Republicans. The whites who are now struggling for control of the American political throne are divided into liberal and conservative camps. The white liberals from both parties cross party lines to work together toward the same goal, and white conservatives from both parties do likewise. The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights. In this game of deceiving and using the American Negro, the white liberals have complete cooperation of the Negro civil rights leader, who sell our people out for a few crumbs of token recognition, token gains, token progress. In the New York Tribune, in an editorial dated February the 5th, 1960, they pointed out that out of 11 million qualified Negro voters, only 2,700,000 actually take time to vote. This means that, roughly speaking, only 3 million out of the 11 million Negroes who are qualified to vote take an active part, and the remaining 8 million remain voluntarily inactive. And yet it is this small minority, the 3 million Negro voters, who help determine who will be the next president. If who will be the next president can be influenced by 3 million Negro voters, it is easy to see why the presidential candidates of both political parties put on such a false show with the Civil Rights Bill and promises of integration. They must impress the 3 million voting Negroes who are the actual integration seekers. And if so much fuss is made over these 3 million integration seekers, what would the presidential candidates have to do to appease the 8 million non-voting Negroes if they ever decided to become politically active? They hold the balance of power. Who are the 8 million non-voting Negroes? What do they want? And why don't they vote? The 3 million Negro voters are the so-called middle-class Negroes, or high-class Negroes, or uppity Negroes, who are referred to by the late Howard University sociology professor E. Franklin Frazier as the black bourgeoisie, who have been educated to think as patriotic individualists with no racial pride whatsoever, who believe in and look forward to the future integrated, intermarried society that is constantly being promised to them by the Negro politician. And therefore, this integration-minded 3 million minority remain an active part of the white-controlled political parties. But it must never be overlooked that these 3 million Negro integration seekers are only a small minority of the 11 million qualified Negro voters. The 8 million non-voting Negroes are the majority, the downtrodden black masses. They have refused to vote. They've refused to take a part in politics because they reject the Uncle Tom approach of the clergy politician leadership that has been handpicked for the so-called Negroes by the white man himself. This clergy politician leadership does not speak for the Negro majority. They don't speak for the black masses. They speak for the black bourgeoisie, the brainwashed, white-minded, middle-class minority, who, because they are ashamed of their race, because they are ashamed of being black and don't want to be identified with black, they are seeking to lose this black identity by mixing and mingling and intermarrying and integrating with the white society. The race problem cannot be solved by listening to the white-minded, brainwashed minority. The white man must try to learn what the black majority want. The president would be wise to try and learn what the black masses want. And the only way to find this out is by listening to the man who speaks for the black masses. And I can declare to you tonight and to the entire world that the man here in America who speaks for the majority, the downtrodden, dissatisfied black masses, is this same man who so many thousands of our people are flocking toward to see and hear. This same Mr. Muhammad who is labeled by you as a black supremacist and as a racist and as an extremist. If the 3 million middle-class Negroes are casting their ballots for integration and intermarriage, what do the non-voting black masses who are in the majority want? Find out what the black masses want, and then perhaps America's grave race problem can be solved.
Highly prophetic words there from Malcolm X. Minister Malcolm X, however title you want to put on. But highly prophetic words. And I say that because when we look at how things are going in history right now with politics and how things are with the black community. I can only speak on the black community as a black man. But let's think about this thing for a second. And some of the things he says, I agree largely in part of what he is talking about. Some things I'm like, yeah, disagree, but I'm not gonna get into that right now. That's another day. But let's let's take this from a trans historical perspective. Okay, 1965. Here it is, 2020, 2020. He spoke in reference to what he said 13 million or something like that. We now have 42 million black people in America. We make up 13% of the population. And to his point, he is absolutely correct. We cannot think for 1 second that we would sway in an election based on our votes. Mathematically impossible at the end of the day. Yes, we can participate in all that good stuff and make our voices heard based on what we identify with politically and all that good jazz. But to think that politicians are looking to black America to determine who's going to be in a seat, stop the madness. And I'm going to break it down for you, folks. Like I said, we're 13% of the population, of the U.S. population, 330 million people. We are 42 million. Now, let me break that down even further. There's 18% Hispanics. And you see it in politics already. The black community is slowly getting the Heisman, and the focal points are coming on to the Latino community. Remember that migrant caravan that was coming through? Yeah, they're back again, by the way. I talked about that a couple weeks ago. So, and here it is. We were back in a political election cycle again. But anyways, out of our 42 million, America, remember, business administration, math is not my forte, but I understand it. We have under 18 years old. Out of the 42 million, 10 million of that is under 18 years old. That's 23% of the 14 of the 13% of the population. So you're taking 10 million out of the way. Now you say, Randy, what about the prison population? I'm glad you asked. So according to today's data, I pulled it this morning. The Federal Bureau of Prisons, there is currently 59,580 people, roughly 0.14%, less than 1% of the black community that is currently in prison. So you could add that 59,000 to that 10 million. Now you have 10.6 million people that's automatically taken out of the black equation for voting power. Now we're down. We dwindled that down to roughly 31 million. Out of this 31 million, roughly, we can look at the sub demographics, if you will, um, economics. You know, in terms of their social economic status quo and everything else. We already know that there is a typical 90% uh, voting block of blacks that vote Democrat, regardless of who, what, when, where, why, and how. We already know this. So you can take that 90% out of that 32 million and you can equate that, boil it down to roughly 30 million uh, blacks, the remaining black, that if they vote, and as to point back to what Malcolm X said, half of them don't vote for whatever reason. Then you have those that, as he would call the bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie class, the middle class of African Americans, that they will lean towards being conservative for whatever reason, whether it's to be accepted by a white community or whatever. That's the part I kind of disagree with him on that. There's just some that just they elevate themselves socially to be part of that class. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we look at entertainers and athletes today. We would say that he's part of that class in today's terms if we want to look at it from that perspective. But like I said, I'm not going to get into all that. But my point is this: my whole point of all of this is that we have to pay attention and look at what's going on politically as being the political football Malcolm X alludes us to be, and how and what politicians on both sides are saying and doing. Now, yes, being a black conservative, it requires critical thinking because usually we are the only one in the room, black wise, usually. So we have to be attentive. We have to be critical thinkers and say, was that racist or was that just them being a, what? So, and then you look at the black liberals or black Democrats, they gobble up everything that a politician says to them, and then they're forgotten about for the next 4 years or 2 years, depending on what seat they're running for, or 6 years, and then we're revisiting these cycles all over again. We don't care about, unfortunately, in large part, we don't care about policies and holding people accountable and everything else, or doing a recall election when they fail to deliver on the things that they said they were going to do. So I just employ and encourage you all to think about these things. It's just for fun purposes. The black community makes up 38.4% of the prison population, while whites make up 89.338%, or 57% of the prison population. Uh, yeah, 57% of the prison population. Not there's 89,000 people whites in prison. But anyways, folks, that is all the time I have. I see I'm about to run over. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Be safe, be blessed, be prosperous. Do great things. Go forth and multiply. uh, don't forget to pick up my book, The New You, Now Equipped with Wisdom, on Amazon. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parler. I'm building up my Parler followers. So if you're on Parler, jump on over to Parler. Check me out. Oh, excuse me. Um, LinkedIn, if you want to build a professional network with me, be more than happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. And if you want to support, donate, all that good stuff to my show, you can do so through Cash App at $, R Perm for US, or PayPal, R Perm for US. If you want to be a guest on my show, reach out to me, rperm@gmail.com. And we work out the details and all that good stuff. So, once again, take care. God bless you all. We will see you all on Monday, God willing. Talk to you later.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.